welcome to the inaugural episode of the Bear Ventures podcast. My name is Samir Vig, and I'm thrilled to be your host for this series. We are in unprecedented times in the economy where there are more dollars chasing yield than ever before, and the options for investors seem to be endless. Every day, it feels like we hear of a new asset class or opportunity, but the traditional high-performing private market industries like venture capital and private equity are still really closed off in a bubble, and the best performing opportunities in private markets still really only target the large of institutional investors. With most deals being access restricted and difficult to find or evaluate, it's no wonder why this topic seems to be so confusing for so many people. I'm regularly asked by friends or family, and even people I meet for the first time, what is venture capital and how does it work? What are the best ways for someone like me to get exposure to venture capital? Is it possible to even do so, and so forth? Even some investors in my fund, Bear Ventures, were once asking the same thing. Hence, the Bear Ventures podcast was born. I thought the time was now to really try to educate the market, to learn more about the industry. In this podcast series, I will cover many of the topics that come up in regular conversation and try to really open the book on venture capital. I'm really excited to hear from you if there's something of interest that you want me to cover or discuss more on, and to exploring different perspectives on the show. I'll dive into the areas of interest that are a common theme amongst my own investor base, and we'll host venture capitalists from other funds to talk about their industries, founders of companies to talk about their journeys, and investors in the asset class to share their thoughts and experiences. My goal really is for anyone listening to better understand the venture capital landscape, who the players are involved, and the types of investments available, and to hear directly from those leading the charge, not just from me. I wanted to start this first episode to cover my background and why we're here, looking to explore the diversity of strategies and people and opportunities that make up the venture capital ecosystem. So to kick off, a bit about my background. I've spent the better part of a decade working in venture capital and have experience across investment types, whether it's primaries, secondaries, fund of funds, GP-led restructurings, and I'll talk more about what those are in future series in the podcast. I'm currently the founder and managing partner of Bear Ventures. We are a hybrid venture capital fund targeting a fund of funds strategy where we invest into who we believe are the best performing fund managers, and a direct investment strategy where we deploy into top performing companies of not just those portfolios where we have insight and access as investors, but really the market more broadly. The importance of this strategy is the downside protection offered by a fund of funds portfolio, each of which contains several underlying portfolio companies, and the enhanced upside potential from the direct investment portfolio. We are enterprise focused as investors, and over the course of this podcast, you'll hear from many of the funds and companies that make up the Bear Ventures portfolio. I've started my career actually in consulting amongst the big four, working for many Fortune 500 clients, trying to better understand their internal processes and problems. I quickly realized during my time within these large companies that the importance of this new wave of technology and SaaS offerings is endless. The potential of what they can do for these larger companies with outdated systems is astronomical. I started a prop tech company by the name of In Realty during that time. It was focused on the residential home buying process for residential real estate to help gather data, store, and analyze all the information behind a residential home buyer's decision to buy a home. And then went on to grad school to UVA Darden to further my knowledge of how to build companies. I immediately post-MBA started my career in venture capital, first at an early stage venture fund, helping run their accelerator, and then later moved to a large institutional fund of funds where I invested globally from their multi-billion-dollar asset pool. Bear Ventures really, in my mind, is a culmination of all those experiences, as an operator, as a founder, advisor, and investor. I saw areas where I felt things could improve for investors and founders and fund managers, and ultimately saw that, once again, I was bit by the founder bug and decided to solve the problems I saw. This show by no means is meant to be just about my fund, Bear Ventures, although you might occasionally hear a shameless plug from my side, but instead to really talk about the venture capital ecosystem more broadly. In a time where there's more options than ever, investors unfortunately seem to be more confused than ever. Bear Ventures strives for transparency and really wants its investors to understand the asset class, be educated on the asset class, and know the opportunities out there so they can decide if venture capital really is right for them. Whether you are actively searching for investment opportunities or you're passively looking to learn more about a new asset, or you're just quite frankly bored looking for a new podcast, I would love nothing more than to be a part of that journey with you. Please do follow me to be notified of when the next podcast airs. And thank you for tuning in. Until next time, take care.